Hey guys, Mr. V here with this week's video tutorial. Let's just take a quick look at this week's agenda. It's very similar to last week, still carrying on with the same kind of college format. I did want to post both videos on here in case any of you guys are behind. So this week's video, the video you're actually watching now, is going to be right here, and then last week's video will be number 2. Okay, so if you're behind, make sure you go take a look at that. It'll explain everything that we did last week and kind of get you ready for this week as well. Number 3, the weekly deadlines. Like I said, they're going to be the same. Discussion questions, which this week are going to be actually journals. So remember how we used to do journals before the break? So you have 2 journals that are due, both Tuesday and Thursday. Basically, you're just going to go down into folder, the class folder, like normal, and do those journals. So instead of doing journals on a journal doc for this week, you're actually going to do them as assignments, okay? But it's basically the exact same thing we used to do in the class, where I would write on the whiteboard and then you guys would give me your own definition of whatever it was we were talking about. The end of the week assignment is going to be your body paragraph, which is going to be due by Friday. Once again, if you go down to the end of the week Dropbox and look at the instructions inside of there, you will see everything will make sense, hopefully. And once again, if you have any questions, you can still shoot me an email. But that's basically what we're doing, is the body paragraph with the in-text citation. Number 5 is important resources. Remember, I still have the links to your handwritten papers in Google Drive right here in case you ever want to go back and look at those, because we are developing those into your essays. But most of you guys have probably already looked in there, but I'm keeping it in the agenda just in case. There's the MLA essay template that we were all using to start off with. This is from the very beginning on lesson 1. I gave you guys this template so that you would have that to begin to write your essay inside of it. And then here are the prompts that we used. And then last but not least here, I've got an example of a body paragraph, okay? So we're going to look at that here in just a second. But first, I want to take you guys to my chalkboard and show you what I'm talking about by writing a body paragraph with a quote or an in-text citation. So let's check that out. Okay, guys, so here we are on our digital chalkboard, and I just want to show you a couple of examples of how to do an MLA citation. So as you guys know, we should already be done with our first paragraph, the intro paragraph, and now we're moving on to our body paragraph. And most teachers, most classes are going to make you write more than one body paragraph. As I taught you last week, the norm is usually at least 3 body paragraphs, but just for now, for this class, for these essays I'm having you guys do, I'm just going to require you to have 1 body paragraph, okay? And so here you can see I have an example of all 3, the intro paragraph, and as my Roman numeral 3, the conclusion paragraph, and I've left blank my body paragraph, Roman numeral 2. So for instance, let's say here's your main, you're writing your main paragraph here, and let's say you're talking about in your essay, this is just a silly example, but let's just say you're talking about dogs and what they like to eat. And maybe you're trying to make the point that, I don't know, I'm just making this up for fun, but let's just say you're trying to make the point that maybe dogs like to lick human beings because they really just like to lick us because we have bones inside of us. I mean, I don't know, I'm just making that up. So, let's pretend like that's the point you're trying to make. And so if you think about it logically, you can't just make an assertion like that without providing proof or some sort of evidence. And that's the whole reason why you cite a source or you quote a source in your essay, is to help prove or to help support the point that you were trying to make with your essay. And like I had told you guys last week, your arguments always come in the body. You always make your argument in the body. So let's say you were writing your body paragraph and you're trying to prove the point that the reason why dogs lick human beings is because we have bones inside of us, okay? And so what you would do to support that claim is you would actually quote maybe you would want to quote like a doctor, or like maybe like a medical journal, or maybe a journal about dogs or something like that, or maybe a book. Somebody who's done research on dogs and like dog eating habits or something. I don't know. So what you would do is you would put a quotation in of what somebody said, and then there's your quote, and then at the end of the quote in parentheses you would put the name of the author and the page number. Okay, and then actually the period would not go at the end of the sentence. It would actually go at the end of the parenthesis. Okay, so the citation gets all included together in the sentence. Okay, so that's what you would do. Another way you could do that is actually just to paraphrase somebody, or to paraphrase a journal, or an article, or a book. And a paraphrase isn't actually a quote, so you wouldn't put quotation marks around it. But since you're actually paraphrasing from a source, you would still need the parentheses at the end with whoever you were paraphrasing from. Because remember, this moves into that territory that we had talked about before about plagiarism. Plagiarism, academic dishonesty, all bad things. You don't want to do that. And you never want to take someone else's idea or their original thought or point and try to steal it and rip it off and try to act like it's something that you thought of. If you're trying to prove the point, and you wanted to paraphrase, you could use a paraphrase from somebody else, but you would still need to use those parentheses with the name of the article or the name of the author where you got it from. Okay, so and then well, actually, I can actually show you guys an example of an example illustration. But anyways, that's just kind of a quick look at how you would do that, and then you would finish off the rest of your paragraph before moving into the conclusion, if that kind of makes sense. So let's take a look at this next part. Okay, so now we're back, and I want to show you guys this kind of example that I was telling you about after we looked at that last part. So here's an example of basically what it is to have a body paragraph. This is the example of a body paragraph the way it would exactly appear inside of a college essay, with 12-point Times New Roman font, double spaced, and yeah, so that's basically, and like I said, I'm only having you guys do the one paragraph. So this is exactly what it would look like. And remember, the body, like I said before, is where you make your argument. So let's just go through some of these. So first off, we have the in-text citation. So you're saying, Mr. V, what is an in-text citation? Well, it's basically, I'll tell you what, let's actually just read through this together. This is kind of an example paragraph I found online, and it's talking about like movies that they make in Asia and in Hong Kong and stuff like that. And I thought it like matched pretty good for our class because we're digital media, and a lot of what we study is filmmaking and digital media. So I thought that was pretty cool. So let's read this together. Cinema has been an important part of Hong Kong culture for several decades. The films of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and many other performers are popular in the SAR. The SAR just means it's basically just another name for Hong Kong. I forget what it stands for. It's a administrative something administrative region or something like that. It's kind of like how we call Russia the USSR. SAR is just basically another word for Hong Kong. So that's not really important to what we're talking about, but it kind of gives you an example of different ways you can state things just to be, to write in a creative way. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of a little quick tip there. There are other performers that are popular in the SAR. As Lou points out, locally produced films have, and then here's the quote, long captured the enthusiasm and love of dedicated fans from all over the world. This was a little typo, but the quote would end over here. And as you can see, whoever wrote this paragraph already started to point to the fact that they were about to quote somebody. Whoever this Lou person is who they're quoting. So this part, long captured the enthusiasm, blah, blah, blah. that was not thought up or written by the person who wrote the paragraph. That is a quote from somewhere else, but it's being used to support the point that this person is trying to make. And so right here you can see the quotations like I was telling you guys, and then in the parentheses you've got the name of the person who wrote the article where this quote was grabbed from, and the page number 68. So it's Lou is the name of the author, and 68 is the page number. And basically, you can just put it together like that in parentheses, and then there's the period on the outside, not on the inside, but on the outside of the parentheses. Yeah. So let's keep reading. One of the most well-known forms of Hong Kong cinema is the martial arts film, which has, now here in the green is another example, but this is a paraphrase. So it's a little different from a quote. And here's basically the paraphrase. So which has undergone a number of changes in style and content over the past 40 years, ranging from straightforward action to kung fu horror. So basically, you see here in the green, it's a paraphrase. It's not a direct quote. So this is not exactly what the original author wrote. Whoever wrote this paragraph just kind of rephrased what they wrote in their own words. So it's not in a quotation, it's not in quotation marks because it's not exactly what they wrote. But if you notice at the end of the quote, they're still giving credit to the author, okay, which is Riley, and you can see the page number is 24. Okay. In order to understand the popularity of such films, it is useful to examine the place of Kung Fu in Hong Kong sporting history. So this part right here at the end is back to the person writing. So you can see here there's different kinds of ways to cite a source or to quote a source. So first off, you've got the direct quote, which is right here in the yellow. It's basically words in quotation marks showing the author's original words. And remember what we talked about, plagiarism, okay? Right here in the green is the paraphrase. It's still from a source, but it's expressed in your own words. But guess what? It still needs that citation, okay? So once again, it still needs a citation because you are, sourcing it from somebody else. You're not, this person didn't think of it themselves, okay? Here is the in-text citation. It's basically the author's name and the year of publication. This year of publication is wrong. For MLA, it would not be the year, it's the page number. This probably came from an APA, but we're not using APA, we're using MLA for college, and MLA format is to use the author's name and the page number, okay? So right here on this other box, you can see here's the page number. It's basically just to show the exact location of the quote. If you're quoting from an internet article with no page number, just provide the author's name, okay? So if you were quoting from online source, which we'll look at here in just a second, and it doesn't have a page number, you can just put the name of the author, okay? References. So for this week, we're not actually doing this bottom part this week. This will come at the very last week. But basically, you can see here is there's a reference list. Remember how I taught you guys that movies have credits, and remember how we learned how to do that? Well, just like movies have credits, guess what? Essays have credits. So basically, at the end of your essay, you're going to have a reference list on a separate page at the very end, and it's going to provide the full information for all the sources that you use. Okay, so basically, it's everything that you used, that you quoted from inside of the essay on the last page, you're going to give all of those people credit. And you can see right here, here's Lou. The year is 2020 is basically the publication date in parentheses. And remember, these will always follow the same format. So you have the last name of the author, the year it was published, and then the name of the magazine or article, and then at the end the page number. So this one came from Planet Hong Kong. The title of the article was Popular Cinema and the Art of Entertainment, and I guess it's actually from a magazine which is called Film Quarterly. So you can see here that's where this person got the quote. This quote that they paraphrased was from Riley, the first name, which is just abbreviated, once again, the year that was published. And the name of it is called Building a Hong Kong Martial Arts Film Collection. And that was, I guess, in a publication called Collection Building. And here's the page numbers once again. So you can see that is basically, we're not going to do this week, but this is kind of what you're going to need to do, because whenever you're looking for whenever you're actually looking online for quotations, you're going to probably want to save where they came from so that you can give them credit whenever we start building our reference list. Okay, so but just remember, this is all we're working on, is just another one paragraph for this week, which is our body paragraph. Okay, so just as an example, remember I gave you the funny example of, like, trying to prove the point that dogs lick people because we have bones inside of us. Well, for instance, let's say, and this is just, I actually just went online and found a scientific journal about dogs and the genetics of dogs, I guess you could say, and this is called The Evidence of Large Genetic Influences on Dog Ownership. These academic journal article titles always are really long. So let's say here is the article, and let's say I'm going to, grab a piece and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to quote this part. I'm going to put this part in quotation marks. So I would do that. I would paste it inside of my paragraph, put quotation marks around it, and then in parentheses I would put the name of the person who wrote the article and the page number if I could have it. Or if it's just an online article, just the names. And actually, on this article, you can see right here, it was actually looks like 3 or 4 different people contributed. And actually, my Safari just crashed. But anyways, that's how you would do that, guys. And basically, you would just put the names of all of those people in the article together, and that's how you would quote your sources. Okay. Guys, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to try to get my computer working here again. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can always email me. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to try to get my computer working here.